Hi, I'm Ian Ryan, and I help busy professionals balance staying productive at work with optimal wellness. Today on Dove Baron's Leadership and Loyalty Tips, I'm going to bust the myth that you have to work all day to make leaps and bounds in your business, and that you can actually create optimal wellness in just a few minutes a day. Stay tuned.
Congratulations! You are tuned into Dove Baron's Leadership and Loyalty Show, the #1 podcast for Fortune 500 executives and those who are dedicated to creating a quantum leap in leadership. Your host, Dove Baron, is the founder of FullMontyLeadership.com. He's an executive mentor to leaders like you, a contributing writer for Entrepreneur Magazine, CEO World, and he's been featured on CNN, Fox, CBS, and many other notable sites. Dove Baron is an international business speaker who was named by Inc. magazine as one of the top 100 leadership speakers to hire. Now, over to Dove Baron.
Welcome, dear friends, fans, and fellow aficionados of leadership excellence. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Dove Baron's Leadership and Loyalty Tips for Executives, part of the Full Monty interview series. Well, today we're going to look at leadership, how it can take you to the very top in the world, and the absolute bottom in your health, and what you can do about it. If you're a new listener, new viewer, thank you for joining us. Strap yourself in, we're about to go full Monty. If you're a regular listener, big thank you to you for making us the #1 podcast globally for Fortune 500 listeners. And hey, thank you for sharing the show with everybody you know. We really appreciate it. Remember, we always need your help, so get yourself over to iTunes, rate, review, and subscribe to the show. It makes all the difference in the world, and we sincerely appreciate it. All right. Let's strip it down and dive right in, if you will. Okay, as a leader, whether you're a CEO, whether you're a C-suite leader, whether you're a sales leader, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a leader in whatever form it is, you know that leadership can be hard on us. It can suck up all your time, it can suck up your energy, and as a result, you become and can become mentally, emotionally, and even physically unavailable to those that you love. But can you do something about it? Well, stay tuned because we're about to find out. From our guest today is Ian Ryan. Ian Ryan is the founder of FearlessAndHealthy.com and the host of the Fearless and Healthy podcast, which is a top-ranked iTunes show on health, self-help, and education. With over 100 years. My goodness, you're looking well. Obviously, that health is working well. With over 10 years, maybe it's 110 years, experience as a highly sought-after health coach, Ian believes in a holistic approach to wellness and putting a large emphasis on personal development. When he's not enjoying the sunshine of San Diego, where he's not from, Ian spends the majority of his time coaching people through popular online programs, speaking at events, and hosting technology-free wellness retreats. His mission is to help busy professionals balance a busy lifestyle with optimal health and to tap into their full potential. So ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome Ian Ryan.
Dove, what an intro. I am so excited to be here and discuss the important topic of leadership and just dive into how optimal wellness can make you a better leader. Would you recognize that? I think it's so important. So I'm excited for this.
Good to have you here, my man. Very good to have you here. So let's start. Let's just dive in. Who is Ian Ryan? What makes you tick, mate? Well, we don't need the big backstory, but who are you? What makes you tick?
Ian Ryan, I'm just a guy that truly believes that wellness is the missing link behind really cultivating powerful relationships, more balance in your life, more productivity at work. And what really makes me tick is helping these leaders that are doing amazing things in the world find out, hey, they can have optimal wellness too. They don't just have to be a high performer at work. They can take care of the body they live in, and that can help them excel in so many different areas. So that's what fires me up. Besides that, in my personal time, I like surfing and spending time out in sunny San Diego. But from a professional level, it's all about helping busy professionals and CEOs balance hectic work life with more efficiency in their health.
When did you start to surf?
Just a couple years ago. I would consider myself very beginner, but there's something about being out on that water. It's this meditative state that I'm telling you it's just been a wonderful thing.
Yeah, when I moved to Aussie, when I first moved to Australia, my mate was a surfer, and he was like, "Have you surfed?" I'm like, "No." And he's like, you got to surf. And I'm like, okay. And I literally surfed every day for 1 year. And it still was crap. But I surfed every day for 1 year. And you're absolutely right. There's something tremendously meditative about sitting, not even the surfing, but sitting on that board waiting for that wave and just bobbing up and down there. And just that space is amazing.
Space is like you mentioned, the space is amazing. And what I had to get out of is, worrying about how good I was. Because like you, I go every day for days and I don't get that much better. But there's just something about sitting on that water and very much like meditation, right? I don't necessarily, it's something that you have to be pro in to see the benefits. Just kind of sitting out there, being alone and taking that space for you can actually show up and help you be more powerful in other areas.
But you're not from the coast, right?
I am not. I am originally born and raised in Olney, Maryland, a little suburb town outside of DC. And I just got sick and tired of the cold winters, man. I wanted to go somewhere warm. So I just, I packed my bags, bought a one-way ticket to San Diego and said, look, I got to make this work somehow because I'm not going back home.
Did you know San Diego? Were you familiar with San Diego? Was there a real pull, or was it just when it's the coast?
I think it was a pull to California, right? In general, I just always had this obsession as I was a little kid. I'd been out to California a few times and been out to visit San Diego, but only once for a few days. There was just something about it. And I got out here and I was just like, this is me. So I don't know if it'll be forever, but I don't see myself going anywhere anytime soon. And I especially think that once the December and January months start rolling around.
Then it becomes very appealing.
Exactly.
It's very interesting to me because I think that we're all from somewhere, but rarely. I mean, I've met people who are like, okay, I was born here. This is my right place. But I don't think that too many people give themselves permission to find their place. You know what I mean? And that is a lot of what it is that you teach about listening to yourself, like listening to that inner calling, whatever that might be. And I think that that has a geography to it. I mean, I know there's a whole science around that some people follow, but that following that geography to say this is my place, and it seems like you found that with San Diego.
Absolutely. I mean, you just hit it right there. I think we all have that place. Some of us look for it while some of us don't.
Hmm.
And I had just always felt this calling to go explore the West Coast. And for a long time in my life, it's funny you say that, I let a lot of fear hold me back, even though intuitively I knew it was something that I needed to explore. And then you get out into a new culture, a new environment, and you're like, why did I wait so long to do this? Right.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because I know this shows up for so many people. And you're right. I do believe strongly in following that intuitive pull, whether for good or for bad, you're going to learn lessons and you're going to learn more about yourself during that exploratory process.
But you're absolutely right. I think that we all hear the whisper, but
For
we hear
sure.
the scream of fear, and often the scream is much louder, and it doesn't even make any logical sense. Like you should stay here, but like I feel this pull. No, no, but everybody will, we get all that. I mean, I know I had it myself. By the way, you've gone small in our lens again. So can you pull your lens back down again?
Yes.
Great,
Yes.
thanks.
There we go.
Yeah,
Yep.
thanks. So, we really need to listen to that inside of ourselves. Now, stress is a major issue for all of us. Um, I think I remember when I was a kid being told that when, in the future, we'd only work if we wanted to, and we'd have pills for breakfast and pills for dinner. Uh, Um, but life would be pretty leisurely. And for me, I think that in my experience, most people work harder and longer than we've ever done. And that stress is a major issue for all of us, and not least of all people in leadership positions. You're a great believer, and you speak about how movement and meditation can improve who we are, improve our work, decrease stress. Tell us more about that if you would.
Absolutely. I remember, I guess about 5 years ago, I was running a corporate fitness business in DC. And I had just, by the way, left the big box gym where I had worked for about 6 years managing health clubs. And although I was at the gym all day, I would take an hour and a half to 2 hours on my lunch break to work out. That's what you just did when you were working in a gym. Well, finally, I decided to launch my own business and I found myself in a car from 5 a.m., driving to different clients' houses. I was doing in-home training. I was running a boot camp business for public school teachers. I was going teaching corporate fitness in DC, and I said, this is ridiculous. My metabolism started to slow down. I was stressed out. I felt like crap. And I just could not find that time to work out the same way that I did before. And I immediately was like, wow, I didn't realize how much, I always knew movement was important, but it is such a valuable tool to relieve stress and just make you feel better. So what I started to do is, I really started using it in the morning before. I was like, all right, well, I'm going to get up and it's going to be a non-negotiable thing that I start my morning with, both some breath work and some movement. And I started implementing this with my busy professional clients that worked long hours and were oftentimes managing and owned companies. And they said, what it did for them from a perspective, just changing that state and getting into their day by focusing on themselves as opposed to being in that reactive mode made everything else better, right? Their relationships, their sales calls, their productivity, their efficiency. So that's why I'm such a strong believer to take care of yourself, both physically and mentally, before you get into your day. And if you can't do that, at least make space for it, because it's just going to make you show up more powerfully.
Yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it? Because, like you said, when you worked in a job, you worked out. But when you start in a business, and this is so true for so many of us in leadership positions, you start in a business and suddenly you become the last priority.
Yep.
And as I said right at the beginning of the intro, you might have the accolades, you might have the nice car, you might have the bespoke suits, you might have the right Rolex, you might live in the right house. But for the person looking at that, it looks very glamorous, but you haven't got time to actually sit 20 minutes and meditate, or you haven't got time to go to the gym and just even get on a treadmill or do some rowing for 15 or 20 minutes. It's amazing how many leaders let themselves go last.
Well, so many leaders, so many business owners, they're type A personalities. They're constantly go, go, go. They want to get things done, and often I
personally have no experience with that. I don't know anything about myself.
Right. But it's right, exactly. And it's I'm that way naturally too, to tell you the truth.
Sure.
Like if I didn't really make, an adamant decision in my life to focus on self-care once I started my business, what I would see myself habitually, I wanted to grab my phone, check my email first thing in the morning, and get right into work. Right. But when I really started to tap into how that was making me feel, I realized that it was affecting my creativity, productivity, and I was operating every day from this chaotic space, right? So when I was able to kind of pull myself out of that, it really did, it really helped me out a lot. But like you mentioned, I think naturally we're just pulled to get right into the day and to go, go, go. And I found taking your foot off the gas actually helps you more than a lot of people think.
But let's go there, Ian. Because I think any leader who is that type of personality is going to be watching this and going to go, yeah, that's a nice idea, mate. But you don't know what it's like for me. I need 26 hours in a day. I'm sleeping not enough. I'm doing way too much. And you want me to take 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes out of my day to meditate and work out? Like, whatever you're smoking, I'd like a fat one, because that's, it's obviously way too strong, right? So talk to that guy, to that gal, to that person who just feels like they're being crushed under the weight of a heavy agenda, and sliding in personal time just seems completely unrealistic. Fantastic.
Well, I like to ask the question, why did you start your business and decide to be a leader in the first place? You want to make an impact, right? But you want to enjoy life in the process. And all there is, we have this present moment, and oftentimes we're working to see this future, right? That's going to come eventually. But if you don't take care of yourself, you're never going to be there to enjoy that time, because your health is just going to derail. And, there's a simple book by Darren Hardy called The Compound Effect. Yep. Maybe you've read it. I'm sure a lot of people on this show have. But it talks about how, especially with your health, for example, we start to neglect it. And day in, day out, we don't notice anything for a week, even a month at a time. But all of a sudden, it starts to creep up on you, and the little problems become bigger problems 6 months, a year from now, 5 years from now, and then it's too late, or it's a way bigger problem than it would have been if you would have just allocated 15 or even 20 minutes a day a couple times a week. And that's really, Dove, what I would say to the people listening to this. Even if you can't do it every day, if you're like, I just can't, just start with a couple days a week, right?
Yeah.
And start paying attention to the nutrients and the stuff that you put in your body, because you are a machine, right? The stuff that you feed yourself is going to affect the output. So just a couple things to think about, and we can go as deep as you want on this, but really think about, the reason that you wanted to be a leader in the first place. And if you want to make a bigger impact, you're going to have to be around for a little while.
Yeah, and I think that's a very valid point. We're all, as you said, A-types who are driven to do great things and make an impact. But how big is the impact if you're not there? How big is the impact if you're hospitalized? How big is the impact if you're drop dead? And that's an important question. You spoke there about the fuel. I mean, the stuff we put in. And I've often said that the old saying is you are what you eat, and I would go further and say you are what you consume. And there's a distinction there. And what I mean by that is not just whether you're eating McDonald's or whether you're eating a salad, but what you consume, the crap you let into your head, whether it's the news cycle or whether it's social media or whether it's reading nonsense or whatever it is. Like, we've got to consume great podcasts, and thankfully that is growing. We've got to watch great videos, whether they are on YouTube or TED Talks and even some humor or whatever it might be. And we've got to make sure that we're consuming, great food and taking care of ourselves. But again, it's part of this same cycle, isn't it, Ian, where people are saying, listen, mate, I've got 15 minutes to shove some food down my neck, and McDoodles is quick. So I'm just going to shove some McDoodles down there.
And one thing that I would urge people listening to this show is that, just because you're sitting in front of a laptop for 10 or 12 hours thinking that you're hustling, are you really getting quality work done when you're not taking care of yourself, right? Because human performance, I mean, there's been studies that have been conducted year in, year out. Your brain can't sit there for 8 hours in a row and do quality work. And now if you, on top of that, are feeding yourself bad food, you're putting negative information into your mind, you're watching the news, it's going to be very hard to convince me that you're going to lead at the highest level that you could, right? And something, a resource that I'd love to share with the listeners here. Download an app or a thing that you can put on your desktop called Rescue Time. And pay attention to some of the external sites that you tend to go to, because, in this digital age, we're so distracted. And you brought up social media. When we sit down to do a project, I'm telling you that multitasking will take you in a million directions and really affect the quality of your work. So I started using that app, and I started paying attention to how much time I was wasting on things like Facebook and checking external websites. It's called Rescue Time.
Rescue Time.
Yeah,
Okay,
and you can block certain websites. You can track how much you're visiting certain things. And I'm just a firm believer of working in focused blocks of time, taking breaks, and guarding my brain and also my body by filling them with the right things.
Yeah. Now that I speak a lot about purpose and the need for each of us to step into a purpose. However, I'm fully aware that even though I speak a lot about that, it can be quite scary for some people. However, you believe that people need to step into their fears and embrace the journey of stepping into their true calling. Tell us why you believe that and how you believe people can do that.
For sure. Well, I read a book called The Top 5 Regrets of Dying. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, by Bonnie Ware. And she conducted a study where she was interviewing people on their deathbed, right? And she asked them, what was the number one regret you had in your life? And what came up more time than anything else was not living a life true to themselves. And when you think about that, you think about how many people live life to fit into a certain mold because they're supposed to do something, or the hometown they grew up in, you're supposed to just grow up and do things a certain way. Well, I found myself when I was living on these, and believe me, I love, there's good things about DC and the East Coast and all that, but I started to see a lot of people stepping into a certain way of life that didn't really seem what I needed to be doing, right? So I moved out here, and I think oftentimes it's so easy to fall into that trap and follow a path that doesn't seem right for you. And I know that things come up in life, but I believe when you follow that pull intuitively, the journey of life will evolve, right? And you don't necessarily know how all those pieces are going to connect, but you'll be happy knowing that you followed truly what you believed in your heart to be the thing that's right for you.
But Ian, that's a, I'm sorry, that's a lovely philosophy, and I agree with it.
Right,
Okay, but it's a philosophy. Who gives a crap? Bottom line is, here's this person going, yeah, that's like love yourself. Okay, is this it? I mean, it's a cliche.
for sure.
Stepping into that fear, listening to that voice, listening to that pull, that's a whole other thing. Give our listeners, our viewers, a strategy, some way of stepping into that, which can seem terrifying. As an example, you're born in DC, you're born into a political family, who are politically active, who are doing things that are business and politics wrapped into one, and I don't know, maybe you're a dancer, maybe you're a fitness person, maybe you're an artist, maybe you're a DJ, maybe you're a musician, maybe you're something else at a quote soulful level. But you get up every morning and put that suit on because of all of those pressures. And yeah, that person might even say to you, yeah, you're probably right. I might regret this when I die, or I might regret this on my deathbed. But I don't know how to walk away. I don't know how to not disappoint, how to walk away and disappoint my mother, my father, my sister, my brother, the whole society environment that I grew up in. What do you say to them?
Well, I do believe what you just said is valid, right? There's this positive thinking type mentality that obviously, a lot of people get in the personal development world that we hear talking about, right? Well, one thing is, you still got to get up and do the damn work and take action every day at any level, right?
Right.
But let's say you're in a job or you're in a place where you are unhappy. I'm not the person that's saying, well, leave everything without a game plan.
No.
Strategically think about it. You might have to be in that job and suck it up and work more and start getting that side hustle going, right? You have to think about it logically as well. I think there's a medium between the two, right?
Right.
You have the logical side where you got to do the work, you got to make things happen, and you got to set yourself up, but you also have to trust yourself a little bit too, right? And
Hmm.
that's where I think the magic can happen, is where you can kind of find that space where both of them meet. But I by no means am telling your listeners that it's easy or that you can
No.
just drop what you're doing and expect it all that stuff. I think it is too much of that positive thinking, but it's kind of finding that place. So if you're doing something that you're unhappy with, you might have to suck it up for a little bit. You might have to
Right.
save 6 months of income or salary, right, before you can step into something else.
Hmm.
Um, so obviously, your circumstances are going to affect that, whether you have kids, what your responsibilities are. But I would urge you in your free time, or when you have some extra time to get it dedicate to that creative project, think about that. Think about getting to the end and maybe having those regrets, and maybe that's going to pull you to step into that side project
Right.
faster and really get the ball rolling. Does that kind of
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's one of the things that I, I am a big fan of Gary Vaynerchuk,
Yeah.
and actually done several shows about his stuff. And one of the things, though, that I really love that he says is, he says, if you're in your 20s and even your early 30s, go do your shit. If you
Right.
blow it up and you make a mess, so what? Um, but the fact of the matter is that that's so much harder in your 40s, in your 50s, because you're more deeply entrenched in your debt, in your lifestyle, in invested in the image, and walking away from that can be very, very challenging. Um, but sometimes we're forced to do that. And as you may know, and many of my listeners know, in 1990, I fell off a mountain and got smashed to pieces, and had a literal fall. But I believe that each of us has a fall, and sometimes the fall is direct. In my case, sometimes the fall is metaphorical, in that there's a bankruptcy or there's a horrible diagnosis, and sometimes the fall is the loss of a loved one. Tell us a little bit about your fall. What was your fall? Because those falls shift us. It's kind of like the that wakes us up. What was yours?
Absolutely. Well, Dove, I mean, I remember talking on my show about your fall, and I truly believe, that we all are going to face adversity at some point in our life, and that we get to choose to go one of two directions, right? Really, when we're at that fork in the road, because we're all going to have shit that happens, and we're going to have to choose how we react to it. But in January in 2015, at the time, I was running my personal training business in DC. And I remember, being at a Starbucks one morning, reading a book and getting a call from my father. He said, Ian, I think it's happened. And at the time, my brother was struggling with a drug addiction. So I always dreaded that call might come. And finally it called. I remember rushing over to my house, ambulances sitting in front of the house. My girlfriend's there, a couple of my friends are in, and he had found him. He had passed away from a drug overdose, in the bedroom that I grew up in my childhood, and it was devastating.
Your dad found your brother?
My dad found my brother. My mother, was crying hysterically over there.
How old was your brother?
25 years old.
Goodness.
So it was a devastating moment, to say the least. It really was, and there was a lot of stuff that came up for me because our relationship had such a strain on it, over the years. And I was like, man, I wish I would have just been able to have that one last conversation for him. And you always think woulda, coulda, shoulda. But in that moment, I mean, obviously it took me a little while to heal in the months immediately following after this, but it shifted something in my head, Dove. It really did. I mean, I remember about 3 months afterwards, my first initial response to the situation was, I'm going to launch a magazine, and I did. And I interviewed people from all over the world that struggled with addiction, that were able to recover from it. But the reason I did that was because I wanted to understand what happened with my brother. So that helped me in that moment. And then I realized, well, this isn't the path that I should be following, but it was that catalyst really to start living more intuitively. So when I continue to feel that pull after my brother passed through that adversity, I said, I want to play the game at a bigger level, right? I feel like I want to be able to make a bigger impact in the world. And that was really the catalyst that drove me out to San Diego to launch my podcast, my online businesses, and now hosting retreats. But looking back, it was through that adversity where I really decided, you know what, nothing is promised or guaranteed, right? We could pass away, get ran over by a car, something tragic could happen in our life literally in the next 24 hours. And so many of us are waiting for that perfect moment. Well, I'm here to say, I mean, I know I'm a young guy that hasn't been through some of the stuff that the listeners are going through, but there isn't a perfect moment, right? We kind of have to embrace the time that we're in right now and make some key decisions. And some of those decisions, I think, come up when we're tested the most.
So if I may get really personal here for a moment.
Yeah, for sure.
When we're all brilliant in hindsight and we're all brilliant in other people's lives. And for a moment, I'm going to ask you to be courageous and do that. And when you look at your brother versus you, I assume you both grew up in the same family. It's not always the truth, but I'm assuming you grew up in the same family. What do you think was the distinction between him becoming him and ultimately dying at 25 years old from a drug overdose versus becoming you, a guy who is now following his passion and his purpose, moving out to San Diego, surfing and running retreats?
That is a question that I've actually been asked before, and it's something that I've thought about a lot in my life. I've had conversations with my mother about it because we always, as a family, we were always trying to figure out what was different in the childhood, the raise, So when I really looked at it, I think something that helped me was positive influences in my life at a younger age. So, for example, I got into team sports. I was an athlete. I had my fair share of trouble and things that I didn't do, things that I shouldn't have done, but I always had positive role models in my life from a younger age, and I kind of followed the more traditional routes where I played sports. I went to college, I did all these things. My brother was kind of like the rebel child, right? He didn't get into sports. He was into dirt bikes and skateboarding, and he never really had that tribe and that network as a young kid. And he struggled in school, and it kind of escalated. So his way of coping was, to try drugs, and he was constantly experimenting things. Now, I mean, if we're being completely transparent, I've experimented with drugs myself, but I never.
Me too.
Right. So I'm not, definitely, it just never took me over to the extent that it did my brother. And if I look at it, it started him at such a young age when he was in middle school, and it just carried on over, into his 20s. And I guess for me, once I kind of got out of high school and went to college and was able to get out of that, I followed more of like the entrepreneurial and business route. So it's an interesting question that you ask. I hope that kind of explains it. I know I was kind of all over the
Well,
place.
I think that I don't think I know the research has been completely wonky on addiction, and we now get a much better sense of what it really is, and what actually makes it happen, and why certain people go down certain roads. And the greatest misconcept of drugs is that you do the drug and you become an addict. That's complete horse shit, scientifically proven to be nonsense. And how do we know? Because your grandmother went in and had a hip replacement, and they shot her up with the strongest morphine in the world, which makes heroin on the street look like a cup of tea.
Right.
And she didn't come out and be a full-blown heroin addict. So what is it? Is there a predisposition? Of course there is. Is there some DNA factors? Of course there are. But the greatest factor of all is community, is relationship, and you use the word tribe. And we move to the tribe. And if you're hanging out with a tribe where you feel connected and bonded, and you feel like these are your people, and they do those things, you will do those things. And if you're hanging out with a bunch of people who do sports and are entrepreneurial, then that's the direction you're going to go. And if it's not right for you, you'll drift to another cause. But this is the other thing that I think where we don't have that massive of a level that we need, the massive level of accountability and responsibility for our own lives, in saying, what is my community? And I think that this is an important thing for everyone to realize, particularly when we're talking about this following your own path, following your purpose piece, is I know where I was born. I was born in Northern England in absolute poverty, where crime and violence and addiction was all around me. And I'm smart enough to have done a sense of, took a vision of what would my life look like if I hadn't have left. And I can see it clearly. And I remind myself of it clearly, that I chose to make a different path, because I was able to see where it would take me. And that pull of our society to say, stay around the people who love you and stay around, what you're familiar with is right for some people, but it's incredibly wrong for others. And that self-awareness, like you said, you got away, you went to college, and that's the shifting point. How did your brother's death, how did it become a turning point in your leadership and in your even in your business philosophy?
Absolutely. Well, Dub, I love where you just took that, because you touched on the importance of environment. And I know we were
Absolutely.
talking about living intuitively earlier in the conversation, but really it made me ask myself some tough questions. And a couple of those were like, Ian, if you don't change your environment, you're probably going to, this is where you're at. This is where your business is. Your network is what it is. I kept on feeling that pull, like I needed to get out and meet other people. And I knew that it was going to be easier for me to have that, kind of fresh start if I moved across the country, because
Right.
San Diego, a lot of entrepreneurs out here, a lot of podcasters doing what we're doing, very big with the health scene is huge out here, plant-based living, all this stuff. So I knew that changing my environment was going to do wonders for my business. It was going to give me that inspiration that I needed to kind of take some risks and do some things that I wasn't doing in DC. And it's crazy because when I got out here, I started thinking about how long I put off moving to San Diego.
Right.
And I came up with all these freaking stories in my head about all the things that could go wrong, right? And, my life would be over if it didn't work out. And then you get out here, and it's just funny when you put yourself in certain situations, how you get pulled to do things, and you step outside of your comfort zone and you start making things happen, right? Because you need that change. So really, when he passed away, it was like, Ian, you need to take more risks in your life and stop, playing it so small. And that's where I think it really shifted my life from, on a big level. And it hasn't all been easy out here. I mean, I've, made a lot of mistakes. Things have fallen apart. I've failed a lot, but I've tried a lot more things. I've
Yeah.
put myself out there. And that's one of the things that adversity really taught me, was that no one is going to give it to you on a platter, right? You're
No.
going to have to go out and make it happen.
What was the one thing that you did for a long time that you likely thought was a really good thing that now, looking back, you can see actually blocked your success?
Yeah, well, in terms of one thing that I did that I think really blocked my success, uh, well, my first business model back in DC, um, definitely was something that I didn't think through. So I thought, I was going to launch this personal training business, and I said, okay, when I launch this business, I am just going to work from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. I don't care how many freaking people I have to train. It's my own thing. I'm getting out of the gym. This is going to be the greatest thing. What I didn't realize is, in-home personal training, commuting from house to house, doing all these things, having all these things on your plate. It was actually one of the worst business models ever created. So I spent, time in my car wondering how the heck what is the long-term vision of this thing? I've really shot myself in the foot here. There's no way to grow. This is not scalable. I'm not going to be able to reach people out of the little community that I was in. So it really started making me think about business differently, leveraging an online platform more, and just thinking more creatively. So I would think that for a couple years really really limited my growth
But you
big
didn't have
time.
a tech background, right?
I didn't. I taught myself, how to do some of these things, as a lot of us do. But no, I didn't have a tech background at all.
Right. So, because, sorry, as you know, I'm a fitness freak too. So
Yeah.
I can lodge this at you, and it means no. But you're a meathead, right? You're the guy who, you're in the gym, you're doing gym shit. And then this is a different world. Business is a different world. And moreover, technology is a different world. But you went from being the fitness guy to being not only the fitness guy, but the business guy and the technology guy. Was that a mental block? Was that something that was in the way, or was that something that sort of seemed to go quite naturally? Because you were doing a bad business model, you got that.
Oh my God, it was a huge block. Oh my, I mean, I tell you, when I was running the corporate fitness business, and I finally started to say, I got to figure out how to do some of this online stuff. And I spent I think it was 3 months trying to put together an ebook, and it was like torturous. I mean, absolutely torturous, trying to figure out how to do this, file, put together this PDF. I didn't even know what a PDF was at the
Peter,
time.
exactly, yeah.
But I got so dumb, I got so sick of what I was doing that I started spending all my free time at the public library. And I would just be there, in any time I had, figuring this stuff out. And now I mean, I'm definitely not a tech guy now. I figured out enough to make it work.
Right.
And I'm still learning every day, but absolutely, there was so many different things that I struggled with, and it was so hard initially for me.
But I think that the reason I bring it up is because I think that everybody who looks at somebody doing things well
Right.
goes, yeah, but it was easy for you. They don't understand that, no, that person was probably useless, less than initially, but there was a level of commitment to it. To say, okay, I don't know what a PDF is, and I feel like a schmuck for even asking, but I gotta ask, even if I'm asking Google, even if I'm asking a friend, but I gotta ask somebody, what is a PDF? How do I create an online course? What is the steps? That's, all can feel a little bruising to the ego, particularly if you are established as a leader. So you're already a leader in X, and now you got to go over to Y, and instead of being a leader, you're a schmuck. And it's like, yeah, I'm a schmuck. Okay, now what? If I want to become a leader in Y, I got to ask. And this is like one of the great challenges for leaders is to embrace that it's okay to not know.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, you're gonna suck when you first start something, and we don't see what goes on behind the scenes with these guys when we're just starting, right? We normally only see a polished product,
Of
and we
course.
see the best of the best, but most people struggle for a long time before they become, good at something. And I looked back at, when I was in this process, I was like, all right, well, I got to do this website. And I said, there's no freaking way that I'm going to be able to do this website. And the very first site that I put together, and maybe this is better to outsource someone that's listening to this, but I
Well,
ended up
today,
having to
yeah.
right. I ended up having to put together this WordPress site and doing it all myself. And that experience was dreadful making that happen, and it was like, man, some of these things, but when you exactly, you ask for help, know that it's out there, and know that once you go through these experiences enough, you realize that you'll learn faster and these things are going to be easier as you come along.
One of the things that I've learned in my 30 odd years of doing this, um, which means I started when I was 7, um, is that the most successful people in the world are obsessed.
Yeah,
We
for
see that
sure.
negatively. But when I say obsessed, I mean if there's a conversation going on over there, then I got to go over there because I can hear that conversation. If there's a movie with that thing I'm obsessed with in it, it's the part of the movie I have to watch. If there's a book that comes out, I have to buy it. What have you been obsessed with, Ian? What is it that has obsessed you that's pulled you forward?
Originally, it was health. I was a nutrition and fitness nerd throughout my 20s. I will say now I've really loved the world of marketing, authentically though,
Hmm.
right? I think right now we're in a space where a lot of people are not authentic with their marketing. Like I truly want to help people in a authentic and vulnerable way. Um, but I think I've become obsessive with that now. I've noticed that more of the content that I take in is around marketing and around sales. And like you mentioned, I think to be an entrepreneur and to be a leader, you do have to be obsessed at
Yeah.
some level. I still don't believe that is to say you shouldn't take care of your body and your health. You can be
No, no.
obsessed with your business and take care of that too.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. You have to be so obsessed and so committed to your vision and to your goal if that is going to be seen into in fruition.
Yeah.
Especially like if you're in the space that we play in online, right, where it's so saturated, the cream will always rise to the top, but you got to really put the time in to get better at your craft.
So let's, like I said, people look at you, they see you've got these online courses, you do the retreats, you work with high-level individuals, you're working with a lot of leaders. Leaders look at you, leaders even in the industry look at you. But I also think it's important for all of us to recognize that we're never there. So what is something that you're working on right now in your business? What is a hurdle you're looking to overcome?
Dove, I have hurdles every day in my business. I mean, in every aspect. I truly believe that the hurdles aren't necessarily ever going to go away completely, but I run into different problems. One of the ones that I just recently ran into was I started working with some corporate companies, and I'm developing some wellness programs for their employees.
Hmm.
And they said, Ian, I want you to deliver a webinar for us. And the webinar thing still scares me for some reason. It's funny because I have the courses and stuff, but I ran a webinar and it was through a new software that I hadn't used, and the internet went out halfway through it. And this is something where, and I'm sure you've been through similar things,
Oh yeah.
right? Where we have these issues, and you can either laugh at them or you can let them derail you, right? And
Hmm.
make you want to crawl in a hole and not come out. And I think a couple of years ago I would have crawled in that hole and not wanted to come out. But now I'm just like, it's a part of the process. What can you
Right.
learn? How can you grow from this experience? And now I'm like, okay, well, the internet is not going to go out next time because I know I need to shift on that other network. And I
Right.
did a couple of things wrong. So yeah, I encourage anyone. It's, we're all going to face hurdles and things in our business that come up and suck. That's just from a technology standpoint. On another standpoint, I started running these retreats. Um, And I don't think you ever really realize how many different pieces there are to get a project off the
Everything's
ground.
glamorous from 30,000 feet.
Everything is glamorous. You think it's going to be so much easier than it is. I found that every single project that I've ever done has been 10 times as hard as I thought it would be. Now, that's not to discourage anyone, but it's the truth.
But it's
I'm
the
curious
reason you need it. But it's the reason you need a level of obsession.
Exactly.
It's the reason you
100%.
need that, because if you've
Yes.
not got that level of obsession and you hit the wall once, twice, three times, you're like, I'm out.
Well, I look at like every single business model. The first one, which I told you about, was terrible. The personal training. I was like, I'm just going to, create a website and I'm going to have clients at my doorstep banging to work with me. That's not how it worked, right? So that's when I started to learn a little bit about marketing. And it was the same with the retreats, my online programs, my podcast. They've all been harder than I thought. But I'm glad I took the step and really went after it anyways.
So, talking of that, to take that at a deeper level, what scares you? What keeps you up at night? What could keep you up at night?
Man, what scares me is I would really say I always have this feeling inside of me, like I want to serve and I want to make an impact that really affects people in a positive way. And sometimes I feel like I should be doing more. It's a battle, like I haven't quite reached that level of impact that I want to. And
Right.
it's something that I constantly battle internally. I think a lot of us as leaders, as people that are running businesses, we want to impact more people. So I think it's that battle inside of being okay where I'm at, knowing that the best is yet to come.
hmm
And that's something that scares me a little bit, that maybe I won't reach that full potential. So that's something that I've battled.
I think I think that that's actually a very healthy. I think there are some things like that that are healthy, and because it gets in the way of complacency.
Right.
You don't tend to sit on your laurels if you go, you know what? Maybe if I died, I haven't had the level of impact that I want to have, and I think that's a really good thing. So here's a question for you. What is I mean, you have your own podcast, you interview many, many people, you've been on hundreds yourself. What is the one question nobody asked you that you wish they would?
The one question that I wish I would be asked is really, what do you want? What do you want to be remembered for? I mean, I've been asked it before, but not enough. I guess I haven't been asked it enough, and it's a question that sometimes lights me up.
So tell us,
So
what do you
I
want to be
just
remembered for? Because I'm
I
sure
just
it's not
want
a fitness program.
no, it's definitely not a fitness program. It's I look at where I was a couple years ago, and I get a lot of people that reach out to me, I guess with the name of my podcast being Fearless and Healthy, and a lot of people that want to start businesses, and I want to be remembered as a catalyst in someone's life for following a life or pursuing something that truly lit them up inside and made them feel truly fulfilled with their work. And sometimes I think people just need that spark from someone, really. So if I could be that for someone, I think that would be, they said, you know what, Ian really lit that fire under me to do something with my life. I think that would be something great to be remembered for.
That's pretty cool, mate. That's really good. So, very often on podcasts, they will ask you, "Well, if you could go back to your 20s and give yourself your 20-year-old self some advice, what would it be?" Nah, we're not going to do that shit. So what we're going to do is this. We're going to move forward in time, and we're going to meet your 70-year-old self, 70. What's the advice he's going to give Ian today?
Man, if I was going to go forward in time, I'd say embrace the present moment that you're in as much as possible. Because all we have is the present, right? So I think that would be the advice that I would give myself for sure if I was doing that. because we don't.
Your
Nothing's guaranteed.
70-year-old self would say to you, be more present.
Be more present. Yes, be more present.
Hmm. How do you think that would? I mean, because I know you work with that. How do you think? Because very often, of course, we're not able to shift into a different paradigm. But wouldn't you say that you're doing a lot of that now? That you're doing a lot to be present?
Definitely, but I think we can always have another level of presence. I
Right.
truly believe that in our relationships, the time that we spend, I think that I'm doing pretty good on it. But still, I find myself chasing this elusive carrot sometimes, right? As we all
Hmm.
do.
As we all do.
And I just think that when we can really, really buckle down and be present in the moment that we're in, that's what it's all about. So sometimes I just need, a slap on the wrist to remind myself
Sure.
of that. And, if I got to 70 years old and I was having that conversation, that's something that I would remind myself of.
Who's the leader that you look at that you admire?
Well, it depends. Are you in a particular space or just overall?
Overall.
Any. I really resonate with Darren Hardy.
Hmm.
He's a leader that I really admire. I think he's done a lot of great things, especially for entrepreneurs, and I've really liked a couple of his reads. One of them being The Compound Effect, another being The
Hmm.
Entrepreneurial Roller Coaster. Lot of other guys that I look up to and admire in the space of health and business, but he's one of them.
What is it? What is it about Darren that really resonates for you?
I think the level of realness about entrepreneurship that he talks about. For example, I see a lot of people talking about the glamorous side of things sometimes. Um, but there's really two ends to the spectrum,
Of
right? And
course.
one of his books, The Entrepreneurial Roller Coaster, talks so much of it. It talks about the roadblocks that you're going to hit, some of the ups and downs that you're going to face, um, and I guess just what it truly is like to be an entrepreneur. Obviously, it's different from everyone or from different people's perspective. But man, do a lot of people sugarcoat uh, it and try to act like it's this fairy tale lifestyle that me and you both know isn't the truth.
Well, some people, not mentioning any names, they show videos of themselves with their Maseratis and their Ferraris,
I don't
showing you
know. I
around
have no
their.
idea who you're talking
No,
about.
of course. So I'm just making it up, of course. Oh, I was talking about Tom Vu. You probably are too young to remember Tom Vu. You have any idea who that is?
I have no idea who he
Yeah, I
is.
didn't think you would. Tom Vu did infomercials in the 90s. And he says, if you don't join my course, because he was Vietnamese, and so this is politically incorrect, of course, but I'm just doing this. If you don't join my course, you deserve to be broke. I mean, and he would be on these boats with all the girls with their boobs hanging out, and he'd be standing by his Rolls Royce and talking about how he arrived as a boat person from Vietnam. And it's like, oh my God. I mean, I see so much of that glamorize entrepreneurship instead of the work, what it takes, of what it really takes. And if you don't have that, you're dead in the water, mate. It's just all over. So,
Well, I think for some people they see that and then they jump into entrepreneurship and then they don't last very long because they
well,
don't
of
they
course.
don't realize how long it is. And yeah, so I always appreciate people who keep it real.
Yeah.
That's why I think as a leader, Dove, I know you talk about this so often and you did on my show. I truly appreciate people that are vulnerable, and they
Mhm.
they share the truth behind things. And you can be charismatic, you can be a leader and show confidence, and at the same time show the other side, right? And
Absolutely.
that's what I appreciate so much in the true leaders out there in our space.
I fully agree with you. What is, as we finish up here, I want to ask you, what is the most practical tip that you could give to our listeners, to our viewers, to the C-suite individual, to the high-level entrepreneur who's tuned in? What's the one piece of practical guidance you would want to give them from your point of view, what it is that you've talked about today?
Absolutely. So one thing I would say is start your day from a proactive state versus a reactive state. So it doesn't matter if you have 10, 20, or 30 minutes. I would say do not check your phone. Make this a habit in your life where literally until you do a couple things for yourself, your phone is either on airplane mode or you don't touch it. So You could do a meditation practice with a little bit of movement and then jump into your day. If you just made that one switch, I guarantee it will make a profound impact in your life.
Start the day. Yeah, I think that's a really great idea. It's like, because we are such a reactive society, aren't we? We're so
100%.
reactive.
We jump right into email. We jump right into our agenda, the things we have to get done with business. Spend a little bit of time on yourself and your own self-care.
Yeah, I remember somebody asking me, do you sleep with your phone by your bed? And for many years I didn't. I used to have it in a different room, and I said, yeah, I do. But here's the thing about it is that it's actually a clock. I turn it down to the minimum light, and it's always on airplane mode. And I do not take it off airplane mode until I've been up at least 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Which gives me time to meditate and gives me time to drink my anti-inflammatory drink of apple cider vinegar and do the health rituals that I like to do and the meditation that I like to do. Because if I didn't, I know if I turn that off airplane mode, none of the other things are happening.
Well, let me ask you this, is when you miss that, what happens in your own productivity and energy for the day? Let's say that didn't happen.
Right. So if I'm jumped in and got reactive, it's really simple. I would be far more productive for 2 hours.
Right.
And then I would be far less productive for the other 10.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right? So that's the trap. You see, that's the trap. Instant gratification. It's like heroin. Right? There's a big hit up front, and it's like, wow, this is great. And look how much shit I got done in the first, and it's only 8 o'clock, and in the first 2 hours I've done so much, and it's so great. But then I'm dragging my ass the rest of the day because I didn't meditate, because I didn't have my nutritional drink, because I didn't have my bulletproof coffee, because I didn't meditate, read, and catch up on the things that, as I said, the things that I healthily consume. So it's
instant gratification. Yep, absolutely.
And I think that we all need to learn short-term pain, which is to turn it off and fight your mind's drag to do the thing. Short-term pain for long-term gain. But if you choose short-term gain, which is that, okay, I'll just go right into it and feel productive, you will always suffer long-term pain. Short-term pain, long-term gain, short-term gain, long-term pain. And this is a mantra that I think we, particularly in the world we live in today, that we all need.
Yes.
Ian, it's been great having you here, mate. Thank you very much. We really appreciate your guidance and all of the things that you've added to us. It's really been wonderful. Thank you for being with us.
Awesome, Dove. It was a pleasure. And, I hope to connect soon.
Absolutely. Please tell our listeners and our viewers where they can find out more about you and all the wonderful resources that you offer.
For sure. If you head on over to fearlessandhealthy.com, you can learn more about my podcast, my retreats, my coaching programs. And also, if you just want a super simple 7-day challenge that you can take in the morning and implement in your life, go to fearlessandhealthy.com/challenge. I'll walk you through some meditations and some workouts. And it's been a pleasure.
It's been great having you, mate. Thank you so much. We're honored to have had you on. And I want to thank you, dear listener, viewer, for tuning in. Remember, as always, do not listen to this podcast. Please don't just listen. It's a waste of time. It's just background noise. Instead, pay attention. Listen, take notes, and challenge yourself. Take something from this show and challenge yourself to do it. Even if it is getting up 10 minutes earlier and keeping your phone in airplane mode, whatever it is, challenge yourself with something you learn to upgrade and up quality your life, because it will make you a better leader. And remember, the research consistently shows that one of the biggest challenges facing the most successful companies is counterintuitive, and that these fast-growing companies are spending a fortune training, developing, and even attracting great employees, high top talent, and then they're losing them at an extraordinary rate before they even get a chance to have a return on investment. If that's what's happening for you and you want to change that, reach out to us at fullmontyleadership.com. We provide you with the essential leadership skills to rekindle and amplify the hidden loyalty assets inside of your organization by tapping into your true, what we call soul purpose. This is vitally important to you. fullmontyleadership.com, providing you with the concrete soft skills to get you and your organization to the top and keep you there. Why? Well, it's simple, because you can't outsource authenticity. Till next time, it's Dov Baron. I challenge you to get yourself over to matrix.fullmontyleadership.com as well and get your authentic leadership matrix self-assessment. It's absolutely free to you for being a listener. the Matrix. So matrix.fullmontyleadership.com. It's your self-assessment tool. It's absolutely free to you. Value of $197. Matrix.fullmontyleadership.com. Till next time, this is Dov Baron, fullmontyleadership.com, saying stay curious, my friend. Stay curious about what you can do to be a little more present, a little more healthy, and a little more vital in just listening a little better to that voice inside of you by keeping out the noise and paying attention to what you consume. Till next time, this is Dov Baron. I'm out.